This video is about Astonishing Swordsmen and Sorcerers of Hyperborea. This is a box set. As you can see, it's an empty box. I've got all the stuff right here. There's the art on the back. It's absolutely awesome. And here's the front art. Look at that. Very old school. Very cool. This is by Northwind Adventures. It's written by Jeff Talanian, and the whole thing is illustrated by Ian Bagley. So what is Astonishing Swordsmen and Sorcerers of Hyperborea? Well, it's an OGL game, and it's a throwback, obviously, to old D&D. Some people would call this a D&D clone, or an OSR game. So I'm going to let you know what comes in the box set. The first book right here, this is the player's manual. See right there? Ooh, pretty good size. It is spiral bound, as you can see. Some people might like that. Some people maybe won't. I kind of like it, like how it lays flat on the table, or you can flip it around and sit it in front of you. It doesn't take up too much space. Other people might not like the fact that it kind of goes hard into a book bag or something, the way that the spiral is. And sometimes the page flipping could be a little bit difficult, might get caught up in the spine. But that is the player's manual. It also comes with the referee's manual, and this has got your monsters, it's got your magical items, and it's got the referee's section on Hyperborea, the setting that comes along with this game. So unlike other OSR clones, this game actually has kind of its setting of its own. And that setting is helped by the fact that it comes with this huge map. I'm not going to fold it out all the way, but it's a big hex map, and it's very cool and very easy to see, make out. In fact, the whole place of Hyperborea is a hex, so that's kind of neat. And it comes with probably about 6 or 7 character sheets. They're very thorough sheets, so you're definitely going to have to. They're two-sided, 4 panels, so pretty big sheets. You can also get those online, obviously. And it also comes with a great set of precision cut dice. Now these are not inked, and I did this myself with crayon, so that do know that you'll have to do that. And for the D20, it is listed pretty much 1 through 10 twice, so you're going to need to use a different crayon or whatever paint you're using, or you can do it old school and roll a D6 with it and come up with the number yourself. So let's go back and tackle the player's manual. One thing that's really stark about this whole book and is the fact that with it having one illustrator, the illustrations, I really enjoy them a lot. I think they're fantastic. The Ranger picture in particular, I think, is just amazing. It's very simple, but it doesn't try to do anything too crazy to show you what a Ranger is all about. Love the art throughout it. It's kind of brutal. It's very, very, a lot of sharp edges, black and white. But this is a 3-section book. Each of these books have kind of 3-section volumes, if you wish. And the first volume obviously is going to be about character generation. Now, this is going to be a little bit more in-depth view of this book, of this game, mainly because I just want to make sure you understand some of the difference that it has from other OSR games. So it pretty much plays the way that an OSR game is, or a D&D clone. But Jeff Talanian has made a couple of changes, his own little tweaks to the rules, and I think it's one of the most sound versions of the old D&D game system. It uses a D6 a lot for feats of heroic strength or feats of dexterity, and that's really, really quick and really easy to learn how that works with the game. Normal attributes. This is, you're going to know this if you've played some D&D games. So, like with Constitution, you've got a test of strength, which is going to be a D6, and then you have an extraordinary feat of Constitution, which is going to be a percentile chance. So, extraordinary feats would be something, truly heroic, very difficult to do, and a normal test of Constitution would be something, quite mundane or quite normal, but obviously going up in difficulty. So you've got pretty much what you know about, the stats. Now, where I think the game really excels, and some people may be a little bit overburdened by this, there's a lot of classes. Now, what you can do is you can just play with your 4 basic classes. You've got Fighter, Magician, Cleric, and Thief. Now you can just tell your players this is all we're playing with, and maybe later on down the road uh, you can expand that and use some of these subclasses. And I'm just going to briefly kind of go over the subclasses here that they have. You can hear, obviously the book makes a little bit of noise when you're turning pages sometimes, but the fighter has several subclasses. He's actually got some of the most subclasses. And those are going to be a barbarian, and now this is a barbarian that is truly kind of Conan-like. He's not so much a berserker, because the berserker is its own subclass. He's more of a survivalist, outdoor wilderness, and tracker, and I kind of like the splitting of the two. I don't prefer my barbarians to be berserkers. I like to have the choice of both. So, very cool. You got, like I said, you got barbarian, you got berserker, you got cataphract, which for those people who don't know what that is, it's a knight. Very good and versatile on horseback. And you got a paladin. So the paladin is attached to the fighter. And then you have the ranger. So those are those subclasses. So right there you've got a lot of choices, and it continues on. You've got a warlock. That's also a fighter class, and that's going to be a fighter wizard, fighter magic user, pretty much. And again, each of these have own little tweaks and twists that he has created, to make this game kind of stand out. The thief uses a D12 for all his skills, such as hide and shadows, pick locks, and he gets a better chance out of 12, a D12 roll, to completing that thief ability. So that's kind of neat and different. The magician subclass has got illusionist. It's got necromancer. That's always a kind of a popular one. It's got a pyromancer. So right there, you don't see that a whole bunch in a lot of OSR games, but it's kind of neat. And you've got a witch, which I think is it's exactly what you think it is. It's the cauldron, and it's the potions, and it's the broom, and it's the cool stuff. And then you have cleric subclasses. You've got druid, you've got monk, you've got priest, and you've got shaman. So, I mean, right there we've hit all these subclasses, and we still got the thief to go. The thief has got assassin, so there's a throwback to the old days. It uses poison and altering their appearance. And then you've got the bard. You've got a legerdemainist, which is kind of like a magic-using thief. Pretty neat. And after that, you've got the scout. A lot of wilderness, kind of moving on ahead, checking stuff out. And those are all the subclasses of that you can choose from. So right there, that's already a lot. The system does have some tweaks that he's made in the actual combat and the normal kind of day-to-day activities your characters are going to be doing. It uses descending armor class. It uses what's very easy, what I really like a lot. Fighters have, fighters and all the other characters, they have what's called fighting ability, and that's how good they are at fighting. There's casting ability. There's turning ability for clerics. So 3 easy casting names so that you can understand what's your fighting ability. Oh, it's a 3. What's your casting ability? It's a 2. That's very set out, very easy. There's a lot of information about the combat section. I would say that, if anything, that the combat section has got a lot of improvements. It's got a lot of kind of changes to it, and a lot of neat things you can do, like a shield wall. These are optional, of course. There's a shield wall. There is putting arrows into the ground in front of you so you can fire off an arrow real quick without having to pull it from a quiver. A lot of different options like that that you don't see in a whole bunch of games. And again, that's in an optional setting, optional section in the fighting section. One thing about the game is that it uses kind of normal D&D spell slots and magic. Now, when I get into the setting, which is Hyperborea, and obviously that is this has been influenced by Robert E. Howard, H.P. Lovecraft, Clark Ashton Smith, Jack Vance. The list goes on and on of Appendix N authors that this takes, it's kind of an homage to. And some people have said before, well, why does kind of normal D&D play in with Hyperborea? And Hyperborea, you're thinking of Conan, the Barbarian, and that magic. Some people might think that magic might not mix. Well, this is my answer to that. Yes, it has the kind of the normal D&D type of magic system, but this thing is trying to kind of straddle the line between an OSR game and a Hyperborea setting. And instead of saying, well, here's a system that you may not like and is definitely not in the vein of an OSR OGL game, we're going to give you what you want, which, what is kind of the norm. And, that's up to you if you want to say, hey, look, Hyperborea doesn't have all the spells. You need to change that for yourself. I would rather them give me the full system and I can dial it back, well, than saying, well, here's kind of something we've created that we think might be the magic used in Hyperborea or in Conan's world or whatever. So I'd rather have the normal, and I can take it out if I feel that it's not Hyperborea enough. Um, I personally, I like D&D's slot system and the spells that they have, so it's not a big deal for me. Tons of spells, and I want to say that this book is, one thing that's really cool about it, it's all one column. There's not multiple columns on a page. It's one big column, so it's very easy to read. And I think that one thing that you're going to notice is that Jeff Talanian uses a lot of words that you may not use in your normal vernacular, your normal everyday speaking, and that might kind of put you off a little bit, but I think he's going for something a little bit unique in the book. And so some people might have an issue with that. I don't have an issue with that. I just think there's sometimes where I'm like, well, I don't really know what that word might be. I think I do, but I have to go kind of look and see, okay, I know what he's talking about there. And it's just a different way of writing. Some people might have an issue with that. I don't. So again, we talked about the spells. Now, back to combat, what I want to tell you is that he does have a system. It's in which the combat has phases. And in these phases, I've never understood really how sometimes you can have somebody win initiative on you, and you've got a bow ready to shoot them, and they completely move across the battlefield and get to you before you're able to shoot them with a bow. And so what he's done is he's broken down the combat into two phases where very quick actions, or actions that don't need to take a whole bunch of time, will happen before people have taken longer actions, such as moving their full speed. And it's different. It needs some more examples in the book, I feel, to really flesh it out. And I know in future versions of this box set, I'll be speaking about probably about the end, that there will be more examples of combat and how this kind of works, these phases. But I want to try to use it. I want to use it the way that he wrote it, because it's different, it's part of the rules, and I think it really makes sense. Some of that stuff has never really made sense to me in initiative and how initiative plays out. So that's one of definitely the new things. And then that's really the main player's book right there. It's got all that information, and it's got tons of stuff about aerial combat, madness, boat combat, strongholds. Very cool, very thorough, and this is really cool. And you can actually get this solo, so you don't have to buy the box set, and you can get just the player's manual from their website. So your other players can get this, so you have multiple copies. And I've actually done that because I just think it's a really great book. One little slight is that, and I've seen this in another review, and it does have it on mine as well. It's not too bad. Is that some of the ink does kind of rub off on some of the other pages. I don't have any pages that have it any real bad, but you can just kind of see it very sparsely, where the ink from one page is kind of touched off on another, I guess. But it's nothing detrimental whatsoever in the book. So that is the player's manual, and I haven't talked about races yet because I'm going to speak about that in the referee's manual. And there's nothing here that's a spoiler for this game. This game, I'm going to tell you here, it's got a lot of information, and unless you're buying a module for it, a lot of this is going to be up to you, the referee of this game, to really come up and flesh out. So, and I got to say, a lot of OSR games actually don't have any type of setting, so I think you're actually getting something bonus with this that you can use and implement in your own game. So the referee's manual, it starts off with monsters, and now these monsters are exactly what you're aware of from D&D. It's got Manticore, it's got Harpies, it's got Orcs, but then it starts to hit on some strange creatures. Now these creatures are straight reflected from the Cthulhu mythos and H.P. Lovecraft. You're going to see deep ones, you're going to see elder things, you're going to see a lot of things like that from Migos. You're going to see that a lot from H.P. Lovecraft. And that's where Hyperborea in this game's setting gets a little bit different. It's trying to do something, where it kind of melds all these kind of things together, all these different, writers together, and it's created its own unique Hyperborea. That's not exactly the way that those guys, wrote about some of these things, but a lot of pictures in the monster section, and there aren't a lot of pictures for some of the more normal, well-known creatures that and you can pick up. You've probably got You may have a monster manual laying around somewhere, and you can see those pictures. So I understand they've got one artist on this. He did a crack-up job, but you know, I'm not expecting him to have a picture for you know, a crocodile or a cyclops. I know what those look like. It's some of the weirder creatures, or just their interpretations of some of the more interesting characters that they do. And it's, like I said, there is a lot, and there could be a complaint that it doesn't have all of them, which, you know, that's a heavy task. I do understand, but I like the art a lot. I think it's great. You know, you've got deep ones and stuff like that, liches, you know, things that you've known, minotaurs, and then it goes into a heavy, you know, good size magic item section, and you know, normal, you know, magic items that you know of, very cool, and it's even got a couple of neat little, you know, throwouts there. It's got the glaive from Kroll. It's got some Atlantean ancient technology, such as like laser pistols and stuff like that. You know, use those if you want or not. I mean, you know, don't look at this thing just face value and say, oh, it's got laser pistols, I'm not buying that because that's not what I want to play. Well, just take them out. It's not that big a deal. Or kind of embrace it and see if you like it. So whole section there about you know, the magic items. And then it gets into the setting. Now this is where I want to kind of really touch on the end here. At the end you have the Hyperborea Gazetteer, and this is where he has tried to, you know, give you a setting that you can work with that is his version of Hyperborea. And for starters, they don't have, the races are races of ancient men, okay? So you're not going to have elves and dwarves to play with halflings. Now granted, if that's something that you're hung up on, this is an OSR game, so, you know, an old school game, you can throw them in. It's very easy to make a dwarf or an elf or halfling in this game, looking at the rules, so that's not a big deal. So just to break down the ones they have, is common men, Amazons, you know, those are pretty cool. Atlanteans, they're an, you know, ancient race that's kind of dying out. The Eskimo, Hyperboreans, of course, again, another ancient race that's kind of dying out. Ixians, which are kind of like evil sorcerers, necromantic, you know, necromancy, kind of narrow-shouldered, dusky men, and lots of times probably going to play a villain of some sort, but some of their race apparently is out there doing a lot of bad things. The Celts, and again, these are a lot of, you know, races from history. They call it, some people call them Cimmerians. This is Chimerians, spelled with a K. I like it called Chimerians, but there's also some hybrids, some mixed races, Chimerian Celts. The Picts, which were in Scotland, kind of a tribal group way back in the day. There's Vikings. Everybody loves a good Viking, and there's, you know, obviously common men and a mixture thereof, but there is no stat bonus for these characters. It's all strictly role playing, giving your characters, you know, some real differences and, you know, cultures and stuff like that, and how they look. And again, you know, you go watch Conan, you know, and see the different kind of races of people that are all kind of melding together in these cities and stuff. It's got a great section on. It's got kind of like its own. The way that the sun and how it, you know, the days and months and stuff is very interesting, because you have some months that have no sunlight, some months that have nothing but sunlight. It's got 2 moons, so you know you're in a different place, and that's where Hyperborea is different in this, and it can be used in different ways. It can be kind of like Ravenloft, where it's off by itself, like a plane of existence by itself, and somehow your players get teleported there, maybe by magic or some other way. Or it can just be that land to the north that's mystic in your own setting, you know, that's strange, and you can add it there. Or you can have it as a standalone world, that this is all your players know, and this is what you have. And the thing about Hyperborea is that it's the oceans fall off the edge, like it's a flat surface. And so the waters actually cascade and waterfall off the edge of the world, pretty much. And that's just kind of neat. The map is, you know, the map shows you a lot of floating islands and stuff, and a lot of it's left kind of vague for you to kind of use yourself to create your own places. And then it goes into, you know, the lands of the different, you know, different places you'll see on the map, and really well described. I'd love to have seen some art of some of these places, and I don't know if that was a judgment call, saying we don't want to put a face to this city or this area. We've described it. If you want to put a cool castle or fort there, you do that. So I kind of would like to have seen what they look like, or what their, what his vision of what some of these lands look like. And you're gonna have lands of these different races. So yeah, that's one thing that I don't know exactly what their plan was with that, but that's what they went with, and I always like to see a lot of nice art. But you've got a major city. I think it's called Chromarium, that everybody kind of, it's very ancient, that all the people kind of gravitate towards, and that's very cool place, and that's where a lot of your players are going to be. Um, there is there's one thing to say about it, is that it does have some gods and stuff at the end for you to choose, and one of them is Cthulhu, which is kind of neat, and some other type of gods that are a little bit H.P. Lovecrafted. So what I want you to kind of get from this is, if you're going to play Hyperborea, and I think what my version of Hyperborea would be I'd use this, um, and I would completely try to capture the feel of the Conan movies, the Conan books, and create that area, that world where humanity is in the major cities. Everything outside of that is a wild, barbaric place, and there's a vastness to it. There is a loneliness and a desolation to most of the places that you're in. And if you go back and you just watch the original Conan, you'll see him traveling through areas that didn't have a whole bunch of people or places or cities or towns at all. And most of the melting pots were in the big cities. So that's really what I would try to capture in it. And I would try to, create cults. And they give you they give you the good footwork that you need to do, that's there to help you on your way. But, I would try to create, the cult of Set, and try to recreate a lot of these strange places, ancient places in this ancient land. Put my players there and really have them thrown out, not going to town and tavern and doing the kind of normal D&D type things that we've seen before and it's in other games. I would have it more like, again, desolate and strange. The sky is strange with two moons. The month might be weird with not much sunlight, or a bunch of darkness, and a lot of sunlight maybe then in a couple months after that. And then really kind of flesh out. I think you need to, if you want to play it exactly the way that he's written it, with a lot of these areas and these lands, um, you've got to really kind of own what he's written, and kind of really visualize it, create it yourself. And, if it has a city and it describes who's there, create it yourself and kind of get the feel for those races that are there. Um, and really, if you like sword and sorcery, I think this is a great game. In the future, he is putting out a hardback book that's going to contain both the player's manual and the referee's manual. So that'll be good. And it'll have some more explanations and stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to getting that as well. And I'd still love the box set. Its normal price, I think, is like $50. And you get a lot out of it. Heck, just getting precision dice is pretty awesome nowadays. So yeah, it doesn't do anything real hard, real crazy or different or outside the normal. One thing it did do good is it did saving throws, just kind of basic. And your class dictates what you're good at saving throw wise. So that's kind of easy, and they've made the names of them easier too than the old AD&D and stuff. It's stuff like death, device, avoidance, transformation, sorcery. Real easy to understand what they are, and kind of incorporate everything. So that's what's in the whole box. There are some adventures for it. I like to get some of them, and I'm looking forward to the hardback whenever that comes out. But I personally think that if you like H.P. Lovecraft, if you like Robert E. Howard, you like Conan, and some of the other authors from Appendix N, this is a great box set to get. Spiral Bound may be an issue for some people. It's not for me. I like it a lot. Yeah, it makes some noise sometimes when you turn it, and it might get caught up a little bit. But really cool stat blocks for the creatures, real easy to read. I like the races. I like how the races don't really give you any benefit. It's just strictly there for role-playing and for cultures, different cultures. And that's enjoyable as well. So if you like Conan, check out the game. The PDF is great as well. You get all this on PDF, and it even gives you, the PDF's even got, if you go through RPG Now, it's actually got pictures of the box on there. So if you like the artwork from the box, and Website's got some free stuff on there as well. The Northwind Adventures. A couple of free stuff like wizards get a familiar, and that familiar actually gives them more hit points, which I think is awesome. So there's a whole list that they've made of new familiars for your magic user in your group. So that's Astonishing Swordsmen and Sorcerers of Hyperborea. It's a funny, crazy name. I like saying it. I like trying to ramble it off real fast to see how shocked I can get people. But it's just awesome. It's a really good OSR game, and I really think it's probably one of the best that's out there. But I think if you're hung up on elves and dwarves and stuff, and if that's something you're going to be all stompy foot about, try to look past that and create it yourself. And check this game out, guys. It's pretty good. Thanks.